Have you ever walked into a room and been ignored? Have you ever spoken, only to be talked over? Have you ever felt invisible, while others control the room with just their presence? Today we solve that. I'll show you how to build an aura so powerful. People feel your presence before you speak, and bend to your silent command. This is the Machiavellian way to power. Power is not always about having the most. It's about appearing to have the most. The world obeys what it sees, not what is true. This is where the game begins, and where most men lose without ever knowing they were in one. A man walks into a room, his suit is sharp, his walk unhurried, his eyes still. He says nothing, and yet the room shifts. People glance, some straighten their posture, others lower their voices. What happened? Did he do anything? No, but he looked like someone important. That, right there, is the raw seed of an aura born not from actual power, but the perception of it. And Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. People are not driven by facts, they're driven by impressions. The lion may be faster than the deer, but the image of the lion, still, patient, majestic, holds power even without movement. In the same way, if you want to bend people to your will, your very existence must carry a certain gravity. You must become the kind of person that others hesitate to speak to casually. The kind of person whose presence changes the temperature of the room without a word. Machiavelli taught rulers that it is far more dangerous to be underestimated than overestimated. When you carry yourself with uncertainty, people instinctively place you below them. They interrupt you, question you, test you. Why? Because you've given them the signal that they can. But when you carry yourself with authority, even if you lack it, they hesitate. And hesitation is where control begins. The first layer of your aura is visual. Not fashion, form, precision. Every inch of you must be intentional. You wear a simple ring, but always. People begin to associate it with your presence. You never fidget. You don't touch your face when you speak. Your walk is measured, slow, but never lazy, purposeful. And the moment you enter a space, you don't scan the room like you're looking for approval, no. You observe like a man who knows the game is already his. That subtlety, the difference between looking and watching, is the difference between presence and performance. And here's the secret: you don't need to be important to look important. But once people believe you are, they begin to treat you as such. And once they treat you that way, others mimic that behavior. That's how the illusion becomes a reality. In time, people obey you not because they were told to, but because they have convinced themselves that you are worth obeying. You must understand that most people walk through life begging to be seen. They laugh too loudly, explain too much, ask for permission with their eyes. This exposes neediness, and neediness is weakness. When you eliminate that from your behavior, you step into another category of human. You become someone people notice, not because you asked to be, but because you didn't. Your voice becomes a tool, not a need. You speak slowly, you speak last, not first, and when you do so with weight. Never rush a sentence. Let others finish theirs fully. It unnerves them. Why? Because power isn't just in domination, it's in control of pace. When you slow a conversation, you force the world to breathe at your rhythm. That's power, not loudness. Not force, rhythm. Watch how most people react to silence. They fill it. But you must weaponize it. Let silence hang in the air. Let your pauses be long enough to make others wonder what you're thinking. This makes your thoughts more valuable because they are not easily accessed. The aura of power grows stronger the less you give away. Even eye contact, if you look too eagerly, you give away power. Instead, maintain eye contact just slightly longer than is comfortable, and blink less, not as a trick but as a practice. Over time, your stare becomes a presence of its own. People feel watched, judged, weighed, and they adjust themselves, not because you asked them to, but because you didn't. This is where most fail. They want to act powerful, but aura is not performance. It's discipline. You must become the kind of person who doesn't chase validation, and the world will rush to validate you. You must radiate that you are enough, and people will begin to believe it, even if you don't speak a word. Machiavelli knew that kings are made not just by crown, but by bearing, and it is in that bearing how you sit, how you speak, how you wait that your rule begins. There is a man sitting in a room full of noise, arguments, laughter, gossip, chaos. And yet he does not flinch. His expression is unreadable. He hears everything, but responds to nothing. People notice him. They whisper about him. They wonder what he thinks, how he feels, and they begin to adjust their behavior in his presence. That is the invisible domination of emotional control. In the eyes of Machiavelli, emotion is a tool, and a dangerous one if you don't wield it yourself. The man who reacts loses, because reaction is the clearest sign that someone else is in control of you. When they can make you angry, embarrassed, desperate, or apologetic, they have seized your center. And once your center is gone, your aura shatters with it. Most people live at the mercy of their feelings. Someone insults them, they snap back. Someone praises them, they soften. Someone mocks them, they retreat. Like puppets tied to invisible strings, they dance to the emotions others give them. But you, if you are to build an aura that bends others to your will, must learn to become untouchable. This does not mean being cold, it means being composed, masterful, a controlled flame, not a wildfire. Because the calm man is terrifying, no one knows what he's thinking, no one knows how to shake him, and that uncertainty makes people careful, and careful people are easily manipulated. When someone insults you, they are fishing for a response. They want to measure your spirit. They want to know if you're weak, insecure, unstable. If you react, you tell them everything. But when you don't even blink, when you answer insult with silence, or worse, with the faintest smile, you reverse the power. You don't look hurt, you look dangerous, and dangerous people are respected or avoided. Both are victories. Imagine someone trying to argue with you. Their voice rises, their hands move wildly, they want chaos. They want speed because speed confuses. Emotion blurs logic, but you must remain still. You look them in the eye, you speak slowly. Your voice stays level, and suddenly their energy begins to feel childish, unrefined, foolish. People around start to see you as the adult in the room, the authority, not because of what you said, but how you didn't lose yourself while saying it. This is what emotional control gives you: the upper hand in every confrontation. The power to destabilize others simply by remaining centered yourself. And here's the Machiavellian truth: people follow calm leaders. Not because calmness is pleasant, but because it feels like safety. In a world filled with instability, emotional stillness becomes a throne. But there is something deeper. When you no longer chase being understood, being liked, being agreed with, you become free. And that freedom is magnetic. People can't ignore someone who doesn't need them. They begin to need you, because your emotions are not thrown around like cheap coins. They are guarded, rare, valuable. And anything rare is revered. When someone tries to trigger you, they are trying to see if you can be moved like a pawn. But a Machiavellian mind thinks like a king. You see the attempt, you feel the pressure, but you don't act. You observe, you store it, you wait, because the real power is not in revenge, it's in control, the ability to choose when and if you respond, and to know that even your silence is a message. You'll notice this in history. The most feared figures were rarely those who shouted the loudest. It was those whose emotions were impossible to predict. The ones who smiled in the face of betrayal, who did not flinch when surrounded by enemies, who walked calmly through storms while others panicked. That's not just charisma, that's discipline, and discipline builds aura like nothing else. When you control your inner world, your outer world begins to shape itself around you. People hesitate to offend you because they don't know what you'll do. They don't know what you think, and when people don't know what you think, they fear what you're capable of. That's the beauty of emotional control. It cloaks your strategy in mystery. Others live in reaction. You must live in decision. Every word you speak must be chosen. Every expression you show must be deliberate. Every silence must be placed like a weapon, and the man who can feel everything, but reveals nothing, will always be mistaken for someone greater than he is. There is a dangerous mistake many people make when they begin to rise. They think being liked means being near. They try to be present in every conversation, every room, every moment. They want to be available, accessible, constantly involved. But here is the truth that Machiavelli understood and rulers live by. The more familiar you become, the less power you hold. Proximity invites comfort. Comfort breeds informality, and informality destroys mystique. A king is not powerful because he is always seen. He is powerful because he is rarely seen, yet always felt. His absence becomes a statement. His appearance becomes an event. If you wish to command a room, you cannot live inside it constantly. You must train people to feel your lack. The world teaches you to hustle for attention, to show up everywhere, to keep saying, "I'm here." But the Machiavellian mind flips that strategy. You do not chase presence, you engineer scarcity. You become the one people talk about when you're not there. Your name is brought up. Your silence is interpreted. Your last words are remembered. Not because you force it, but because you are not always available to dilute yourself. Look at how most people behave. They insert themselves into every conversation. They interrupt. They over-explain. They overshare. Why? Because deep inside, they fear being forgotten. But what they don't see is this. The man who is always present becomes background noise. He is seen but not remembered, heard but not listened to, liked but not feared. If you want influence, if you want people to bend to your will, then you must resist the temptation to always be seen. Visibility is not authority, scarcity is. Distance does not mean arrogance, it means value. When something is always in front of you, you no longer consider it rare. The man who shows up to every event is the man whose presence means nothing. But the man who appears once, stands quietly, speaks little, then disappears, he becomes unforgettable. People begin to wonder where he goes, what he thinks, what he wants, and in that wonder lies power. You must understand the psychology here. Humans are drawn not to what is abundant, but to what is withheld. They chase mystery, not clarity. And when you become selective about your presence, people begin to assign meaning to your every move. You look at someone, and they wonder why. You leave a room, and they question what it means. Your silence becomes a language. That is the power of distance. It makes the simplest action look intentional. There is a reason why ancient rulers, emperors, and strategists were rarely seen in public. It wasn't laziness, it was strategy. When your presence is constant, your influence becomes passive. But when it's rare, it feels chosen. It creates anticipation, and anticipation is a form of control. People begin to plan their behavior around your arrival. They prepare for your words. They study your expressions. All because you've taught them not to take your presence for granted. But don't mistake distance for coldness. You are not to alienate, you are to elevate. You don't ignore people, you give them less access. You don't look down, you look inward. You don't detach emotionally, you detach strategically. The goal is not to make them feel unimportant. The goal is to make your importance unquestionable. Think of how people treat someone they admire but rarely see. Their words are held onto. Their gestures are interpreted. Their attention feels like a reward. That is what you must become. A person whose time is not easily given. A person whose attention is a prize. A person whose silence is felt just as loudly as their presence. You'll find that when you step back, others step forward, but not to replace you, to seek you, to wonder about you, to talk about you. And the moment people start talking about you, when you are not in the room, your aura is working. Because the mind creates power when it cannot access it. People will begin to project onto you strength, mystery, control. And if you carry yourself with discipline, you will become the very image they've built. Most chase influence by being everywhere. You must chase it by being elsewhere. Most talk to be heard. You must speak rarely to be remembered. Most cling to presence. You must master absence, not as rejection, but as design. The less they have of you, the more they want of you. Words are cheap. Everyone speaks. Everyone explains. Everyone pleads to be understood. But power, real power, is often quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't beg for attention. It is felt before it is ever confirmed. And those who understand how to master symbolism and silence, they command more than obedience. They command belief. Machiavelli knew that the most effective rulers did not rule by force alone. They ruled through perception, through illusion, through carefully constructed images that embedded themselves into the minds of others. A powerful man doesn't just control the room with his presence, he controls the meaning of his presence. His aura is not random, it is designed. Every glance, every still moment, every piece of clothing, every pause in speech, it's all intentional. And because it's intentional, it becomes legendary. Symbols are shortcuts to influence. When people see a crown, they don't question who the king is. The crown is the king. It's not just a piece of gold, it's a message. The same applies to you. What you wear, how you move, what you repeat. What you remain silent about, these are not just habits. They are your crown, your language without language. And if done correctly, they speak louder than words ever could. Think of the most powerful individuals in history. They all had symbols attached to them, not just physical objects, but behaviors. The way they walked, the stillness in their eyes, the silence between their words, these things became them. They didn't say, "I'm powerful." They created an atmosphere that declared it for them. That's what you must build, an unspoken language so refined, so precise, that people interpret it without needing a translation. Start by recognizing that your every move is a message. How you sit in a room, whether you cross your legs or sit straight, whether your hands move when you talk or remain still, whether you laugh easily or keep your joy private. People are reading you before you speak, and most never learn this. They throw away their influence by being too expressive, too available, too eager to explain. They say everything and leave nothing to the imagination. But mystery is power, silence is power, and symbols. They are the wrapping that keeps your mystery alive. Let's say you always wear one specific ring, not expensive, not flashy, just consistent. Over time, people begin to associate that ring with your identity. They begin to assign meaning to it. Maybe it's your loyalty, your discipline, your authority. You never explain it. But because it's there, always in silence it speaks. And what's more important, they created the meaning. And what people create, they protect. You didn't force it, you allowed it. That is what Machiavellian influence looks like. Now consider your silence. Most people fill every space with words. Silence makes them uncomfortable. But for you, silence must become a weapon. When you pause before speaking, people lean in. When you don't answer immediately, they wonder what you're thinking. When you simply look and wait, people begin to feel exposed. They speak more, they explain themselves, they seek your approval without realizing it. That's the strange truth of silence. It creates imbalance. And the person who creates imbalance controls the frame. You must discipline yourself to resist the urge to speak when it isn't required. Let people wrestle with your silence. Let them project onto it. Let them invent meanings for it. Because the more they project, the more they invest. And the more they invest in you, the more power you hold over them. Not by force, not by argument, but by presence alone. Even how you speak, when you do choose to speak, keep it minimal, deliberate, weighty. Say less and mean more. Avoid filler. Avoid explaining your thoughts too soon. Instead of answering every question, ask one. Instead of defending yourself, let silence do it for you. Eventually, your words will carry the same weight as a symbol. One sentence from you will do what 10 paragraphs can't, because you've trained people to listen, and that training begins with restraint. When you master symbols and silence, you no longer compete for attention, you attract it. You no longer chase validation, you become the standard others measure themselves by. People begin to fear your disapproval, even when you've said nothing. They sense when something is off, even when you haven't spoken. You become larger than your body, louder than your voice, deeper than your presence. You become an idea, a symbol, and that is how an aura bends people long before a single word is spoken. So now you understand. Power is not loud, it is not desperate, it does not chase, explain, or beg. True power lives in perception, in restraint, in the shadows between words and the silence between movements. When you master the art of appearing powerful, people follow without knowing why. When you control your emotions, others collapse under the pressure you never acknowledged. When you distance yourself, your presence becomes rare, your absence heavy. And when you speak with symbols and silence, the world interprets you as legend, not just a man. This is the Machiavellian blueprint, not to manipulate, but to shape, not to deceive, but to command without force, to build an aura so powerful that people adjust themselves in your presence, to make your existence feel like gravity, unspoken, unseen, but utterly impossible to ignore. You don't ask for power. You become the kind of man it can't resist.